Hey everyone, welcome to GTS. We are live and we are joined by, of course, our fearless leader, Jess. And also all the way from scenic New York City, we are joined by Thom and Nina. Hey guys, how's it going?
Hello.
Hey, pretty good. Glad that our mics aren't too sensitive because it is blowing a gale outside.
Really?
But yeah, weird weather over here. But we're nice and cozy and excited to be on the show.
Awesome. Well, it's glad you guys are here. And honestly, we just got our first snowfall of the season today too. So it's weird weather all around. But yeah,
Or snowfall.
Oh, normally we have it at the start of October.
Yeah, because this snow right now, it snowed a little bit and it's gone.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
gone. Yeah, it's dead. Like it's weird, but hey, global warming's a myth. Apparently, that's how things work out.
Well, and as I told Jess, it only took that little bit of snow for there to be an accident back in my hometown. So I'm not surprised by this. But yeah, welcome to the show, you guys. It's great to have you on. And
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, well, honestly, I've been pushing Jess to get you on the show for a while, as he can attest.
As I always say, you guys don't have to push me. You guys just do the initiative, get the people you guys want on, and get on here. That's basically the way it works. But guys, thank you for joining in. Dronzy says happy Halloween, boys and girls. Yeah, it is Halloween weekend this weekend. I don't know if there's really anything going on with the event that happened almost 2 years ago now. But hope that you guys are staying safe. And remember that today's show is sponsored by USA Gundam Store. So use Talk 10 on your next purchase to save 10%. And thank you for following all these people. Ninja Master I stole the bacon and your wife Ruby. Nice.
Yeah, welcome you guys.
Hello,
ahead,
people.
So we'll let the the props kind of disappear a little bit slightly, but yeah, I mean, let's kind of get into why we brought you guys on the show. We wanted to hear the story of MSB and hear kind of all about you guys too. So
We are happy to oblige.
yeah. So I mean, I guess to start off, why don't you guys introduce yourselves? Tell us about you guys and MSB.
Well, I'm Nina. I am the less experienced with Gundam half of the podcast. I can't really say that I'm a noob at it anymore after 3 series and a movie, but I studied Japanese politics and economics in college, and so language also. Studied abroad in Japan, have been interested in Japan since I was a kid, and for the 40th anniversary of Gundam, Thom proposed to me that he wanted to watch the whole thing, all 40 years of it. And something possessed me to say, okay, but if we do it, we need to do some kind of project.
I remember we had just been talking about Julia and Julia, which is the
Julie and
Julia, right? Which is the this book and I guess movie about a woman cooking her way through Julia Child's entire cookbook.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I did a blog originally about doing every single recipe and mastering the art of French cooking. And it got her book deal, and it sort of was really good for her writing career.
And so that was when you pitched to me Thom and Tomino, which was not
Okay.
Yeah, that one doesn't roll off the tongue quite as well.
And I'm Thom, and while Nina has a lot of academic qualifications from studying Japan, I mostly was watching Gundam in college, also studying Rome, but it's much less relevant to our work, although I usually find ways to shoehorn it into our project.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm a longtime fan of Gundam, and I worked as a lawyer for a while and came to the conclusion that I didn't want to do that anymore, and was searching around for something else to do.
Yeah, I guess Thom realized being a lawyer wasn't for him. I had worked as like an administrator in nonprofits and doing fundraising and things like that. And I realized I wasn't really enjoying those jobs either. I made a go of an art business for a couple of years, and that didn't really work.
Mhm.
So the podcast idea came about at the perfect time.
Yeah. No. Well, and with the timing of the franchise too.
Yeah. And it was probably like 10 months, 8 months between when we had the idea and when we actually released the first episode. And there was a lot of going back and forth about what it would be. We didn't immediately think podcast.
Mhm.
We talked about doing short videos. We talked about doing a vlog series.
Mhm.
But podcasting ended up being the one that stuck.
That's pretty cool, and because I think nowadays when it comes to hobbies and projects on the side that you want to do, you have so many options, and the fact you guys landed on podcast, and the fact that you guys landed the tag Gundam podcast is even more surprising. And I was talking to Shaun about this earlier today, and we were laughing about it because it's like, how does this happen in 2018? Did you guys just type it in and hoped for the best?
I mean, yeah. So when we initially had the idea, I searched for Gundam podcasts, and at the time when we had the idea, there weren't any, or I couldn't find any. There was like, I found one from 2012 that had released 2 episodes and stopped. And I was like, okay, well, there doesn't seem like there are very many Gundam podcasts out there. I should get that URL. I should get that Twitter handle.
Wow.
And then at least one podcast launched between when we had that idea and when we eventually were able to put our own out there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and we also were just business savvy enough to think like, okay, what are our good SEO terms? Like what are the words that we think are going to make it really easy for people to find us?
Well, we have a friend who, through total random happenstance, just happened to be getting a job in SEO for the first time at the same time that we were starting the idea of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So she's telling us all the things she's learning at her new job about SEO, and we're sitting there taking notes like, oh, yeah, okay, interesting.
Asking for a friend real quick, definitely not me, but what is SEO?
Search engine optimization. It's how to make Google work for you.
Okay.
Gotcha. I was about to ask myself, and I wasn't ashamed to say I had no clue.
Hey, I said it for a friend. It was you. My friend is Shaun. He wanted to know. That's what I was asking. All right, guys.
The same question when our friend got this job. So.
It's because I love it because we're just sitting here. I looked at Shaun on the camera and he's just going like, and I'm like, yeah. I think we need to know exactly what we're getting into. But that's so cool because that is such an integral part of working or even doing something online is knowing how that works. And the fact that you guys had someone who was going into that branch must have helped a lot, I'm guessing, right?
I mean, if you've listened to the podcast, you know, we lean a lot on friends we happen to have relevant intel.
Yeah.
We have a physics consultant who comes on, and we are able to have a physics consultant because we have a friend who is a physicist.
Right, who we met through doing karate. So like not even through something anime related specifically, but
yeah. That's super cool. Yeah, no, using all of the what would you call it, the sources that you can have at your disposal, and that's such a weird story. A physicist at a karate. That's okay. That's a new one. I'm gonna have to.
It was a college karate club. So
okay, but the funny thing is, he wasn't the only physicist there.
Oh, this is a karate class for physicists.
There's 2.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a fun crowd.
Well, I mean, we'll eventually get to the guests as we go through, but the guests you guys bring on, they are phenomenal. Like they're funny at times, and like they know their stuff.
Well, I'm definitely going to take partial credit because that just means we have excellent taste in friends.
Yeah, this is true.
It's important, especially when you're doing something like this. And but going back to how you guys started, I kind of want to ask because I think I can relate to this. I saw it on the, because you guys know that when we get a guest on, we kind of send them a little outline of what the show might be about, and they'll green light it. And Shaun did his homework, and he did everything really well. And one of those things in there that he wrote were the little mishaps that maybe you guys ran into with like technology and all of that. Could you guys tell me a little bit about that?
Oh gosh.
Well, I think the funniest for me, so we moved between when we started working on the first episode and when we actually started recording and releasing things. And we found an apartment we loved, and it's wonderful. We are on a ground floor directly over a subway. We didn't realize that was going to be a problem, but it absolutely sometimes, if the train goes really fast underneath us, makes the whole apartment rattle.
Yeah.
To the point where we can hear it on the mics sometimes.
Whoa.
So roughly every 15 to 20 minutes or so, we just have to stop whatever we're saying, wait for the train to go by, and then we can start again.
Wow. That is
and there like you can sometimes hear it in the episode too. It's like I was listening. I've been catching up because I kind of fell behind a little bit, and I'm sitting there eating breakfast in my car before work, and I'm like, yeah, no, there's traffic and cars. And I didn't realize it was a subway.
Well, sometimes it is traffic, is the thing. You have to have a very good ear to distinguish the traffic from the subway noises.
This just the.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was gonna say it's just special effects that you guys put for ambience, so I get it. It's okay.
Oh, it's to lend it that authenticity that we're real in New York.
That authentic New York experience.
Hey, I'm walking here. Yeah. So all we got to listen and hear there. But yeah, that's crazy having to kind of adapt to that. But you guys have done it pretty well. You guys said you guys have to wait 15 minutes. Is there anything else that you guys had problems with, like maybe mics or setting up your computer or anything like that?
I mean, I didn't know how to do any of this stuff when we started. We mentioned, I think, when we were just chatting before the show started, that when we first started recording, we had one microphone. It was a Blue Yeti, which is a fine microphone, but we were definitely asking it to do something it was not prepared for, because we had the Blue Yeti to omnidirectional, and we had put it on a table in between the two of us, and we were recording that way, which if you listen to those early episodes, you sure can tell that it was recorded on an omnidirectional condenser microphone, probably feet away from anybody who was talking. And so it was like a constant learning process for me, figuring out what microphones we needed, what type of microphones, how to arrange them, where they should be relative to your face, that you needed a pop guard, all those kinds of things. And yeah, it's just been constant evolution.
And I remember one week we were under a tight recording deadline, and we had just run like a firmware update on our mixing board. And suddenly the cable hookup to the computer didn't work anymore.
Right.
And we had to make an emergency run to Best Buy for like an SD card so we could record to the SD card instead of directly to the computer, because we absolutely had to get the recording done that day.
Wow.
Yeesh.
I think
and we just couldn't get the cable to work. We tried for a good couple of hours and it would not function.
Well, the thing is, like, when you start things like this, be it a podcast or even here on GTS, you have to start delving into what is this whole technology realm of mics, and you start learning about mics, and you didn't know about this certain mic, and then all of a sudden you start getting into the $500, $600 range of mics, and you're like, oh. But you can always start from somewhere, and I'm not ashamed to say I have a Blue Yeti too, so we all start somewhere. But right now, your sound quality is superb. That is something that I mentioned to you guys when you guys got on. It's crazy.
Thank you very much. We worked very hard on it over the course of a long period of time.
Well, one of the first big business expenses we committed to was an accountant, so that somebody can handle expensing our mics and expensing all of the various different gear that we pick up to try and sound that little bit better.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You were talking about the process of learning, and I remember this very funny experience I kept having when we were upgrading microphones or any of the gear. And I'd look online, and I'd search for forums and Reddit and various websites, and I'd be looking at all this advice from people, and it seemed like the people who really knew what they were talking about were like, "Oh, those $500 mics are rubbish. You need the $5,000 microphone."
Oh my god.
Of course.
Oh god. I steer away from that. I don't know about you, Shaun, because Shaun also, for those in the audience, he also has his own Twitch channel, DG underscore Gunpla. How would you relate to that too, Shaun? Because you're definitely getting more into the streaming part of things, right?
Oh, I can absolutely relate. I mean, between going from a really garbage mic that I got off of Wish because I only had $50 to spend on a microphone arm and all the stuff I needed, to still having a little bit of outdated equipment and getting off of a decade-old computer, it's a slow process, like stupid slow.
Yeah. No, it's awesome, but you'll definitely run into some gatekeepers, like you mentioned, Thom, regarding hey, the $500 mics are terrible. Get the 5,000. I've definitely read up on that, and it's just bad. It really gives bad vibes. But any person who respects the creativity of people will tell you can start literally with anything. Just start with it doesn't matter if you have a 5,500 or a $20 mic. You can, as long as you have passion for what you want to do, you'll get to where you want to in some way. But aside from technology and stuff, I did want to ask, did you guys enjoy watching anime? I know, Thom, you said you were always a fan of Gundam, and I know that Nina said that she studied Japanese culture and such. But was anime a big part of it, or was that something that came along with just liking Japan?
So I had an older cousin who was really into anime, and it was my favorite. And so I, of course, became interested in anime, and am of an age where in the US they were showing some anime before school. So like Sailor Moon at 7 a.m. And so I never saw all of it in sequence, but I would catch an episode here and there and really enjoyed it. But didn't watch a ton of anime until my family actually moved overseas, and we were in Southeast Asia, where Cartoon Network was showing a lot more anime than it was here in the US. And I got to watch things like Ranma Half and Akazukin Cha-Cha, which is really fun, but I don't think got much play in the US.
It doesn't sound familiar to me, no.
Yeah, never.
It's like a magical girl. It started as a manga, and then they made the anime. But the characters are much younger, so it's for a younger audience, and it's very punny and silly.
I remember hearing about it, years and years and years ago. I think it might have been one of those that just didn't last.
Yeah. And then around when I was in college, Hulu started streaming a lot of anime as well, and I just got to try out a lot more different things. I do have a very funny early anime story before Thom tells his side, which is my mom knew that I was studying Japanese in college.
Oh, this story. Okay.
And wanted to get me some anime to help me practice my listening comprehension, and looked on Amazon for what was highly recommended, what did a lot of people like, and bought me this anime, which we were going on a trip or something, so I brought it to watch on the plane, and then suddenly and embarrassedly slammed my laptop shut, and she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Mom, this is pornographic." It wasn't porn, it was hentai, but I don't know if any of you have heard of Sakura Diaries. No. It was that.
I think I may have heard of it.
And some people had said like, "Oh, this is really fun and funny." Like, she had no idea.
Sakura Wars, you guys said?
No.
Sakura Diaries.
Oh, Sakura Diaries? I'm looking this up. It's a good thing about having a computer in front of you. I'm looking. Wait, I'm not going to look at anything not safe for work, right?
Well,
she did say it was adult.
All right, no. Okay, now I see what it is. Okay, yeah, this is definitely a little bit. Yeah, wow. As I don't know if you guys have ever seen The Office, but as Stanley would say, it's art. So don't worry about it. It's all good. It's all good. That's how about you, Thom? Do you have any stories like that?
No, I don't have any stories like that. I have a very normal anime story for someone of my generation, which was that in high school there was a fair amount of anime coming over, some of it legally, and I got really into it in high school, watched a ton of stuff. And then in college, I just kind of fell out of it. I was busy with a lot of other things. I watched like occasional things, but was never really part of any kind of anime community. And after college, I went to law school. I worked in law. I didn't have a lot of time. And then I kind of rediscovered how much I loved it.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, I've the thing is, and Shaun knows this, I've never really been into anime. But Shaun, I think you said, Shaun, that people think that you like anime, but you're not like.
Okay, so there's, I've kind of go in waves with anime. Like, much like Thom, I really enjoyed it in high school, what I could access on YTV here in Canada. And then as I kind of got into college myself, I kind of fell off of it a bit as well. And rediscovered it, and then the inevitable cursed thing of becoming staff of an anime convention, you stop watching anime. So we did our online event last May because we couldn't host in-person conventions, and somehow the impression came across everyone at Otafest that I watched a lot of anime, and at that time I was only watching Digimon Adventure 2020. Like,
wow.
Yeah. So I had to fake it somehow through the entire thing.
Oh man, anime is. I mean, now that you guys are knee deep in Gundam anime, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, how, Nina, what do you think of? Like, of course, we're gonna get into it a little bit later, but right now, what do you think of the Gundam anime as of right now?
I've been enjoying it a lot. There's just so much to dig into and so much to talk about with it. I'm finding it very enjoyable. I think there's, even when it's a bad episode, it's usually bad in a way that is fun to talk about.
Okay.
So, I imagine we will probably come across series that I don't like. It seems inevitable in, well, like we talked about before, 20 years of covering Gundam, we will probably have things that we don't like, but so far so good.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I think I've mentioned to some people that really the genesis for the podcast was way before the podcast started. Nina and I were watching Darling in the Franxx as it was coming out. If you don't remember it, it was a mecha show from a couple of years back. That had a lot of promise early on and then totally fell apart.
Yeah, that space robot wedding dress thing was a thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. But Darling in the Franxx set up so many interesting possibilities in the beginning. Nina and I would watch every episode as it came out, and then we'd sit there on the couch for like an hour afterwards discussing our theories for where all these different things might be going. And none of them went anywhere. And the ones that did go places went bad places. But as the show got worse, we actually enjoyed those discussions more and more. So that was the point at which we were like, we could say interesting things about a TV show. Maybe we should say interesting things about a TV show in front of an audience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, it's worked out. I mean, the show is great. It's got, every so often you've got those really heavy episodes that you're just like, I need to chase that with something funny. And usually you guys do hit something funny right afterwards, which is really good. Cause I'm astounded the stuff that you guys have dug up from Gundam over the last 3 years.
Well, thank you. I'm a little curious. You mean more the stuff specific to the show production or the research or both?
Well, the research and kind of your analysis too. Like the talkbacks are almost just as interesting as the research. Just the way you guys go back and forth on stuff.
Well, that is very gratifying to hear. Thank you.
There you go. There you go. But moving on to the nicely pun intended, I would say, Shaun.
Yeah, where I usually throw pun. Yeah.
Oh wait.
Which one are we moving down to?
Wait a second, real quick. The host. So we have this image here of the host. So here you guys go. You guys have been looking at it. So there you go.
This is the art that was done for us by an artist whose handle is, I believe, at the Z, like the letter Z, and then Giorno, Jeorno.
Okay.
Who does amazing mobile suit art.
Mm-hmm.
And
you should definitely check out his work.
We commissioned us as Gundam characters with some of our favorite mobile suits from Zeta.
Mm-hmm.
So
this isn't the whole image, but you can see us or renditions of us based on photographs that we sent to the artist.
Yeah, it was tough to choose which image to go with for this slide because I was like, well, it's got the ones with each of them with their mobile suit, but this one also just straight up says the hosts.
Yeah.
So I opted for the nail on the head subtlety one.
Real quick, Thom, you look like you fit right in there with the original Gundam mobile suit. Like,
is that a compliment?
Yeah. You have like the mustache going on and all of that. Like I can see you in the original mobile suit. The first one.
I'll accept that. Thank you.
I can't say much about Nina because I know she's only watched certain stuff. So I don't want to say anything else. But yeah, no, I can definitely see Thom on there as like a general for like the Federation or something like that. I don't know if it's just me, but anyway, going on to your pun.
You don't think I look like a teenage pilot stealing a mobile suit?
I don't know, man. The mustache kind of. I don't know. You maybe you do, maybe you don't.
I think
with the mustache in Gundam years, he's got to be like 50.
Yeah, it's true.
I was gonna say he's probably trying to avoid saying that it gives off Ramba Ral vibes.
True.
There are worse vibes out there.
This is true.
Oh, wait a second. Here's a slide I wasn't. Look, sorry guys. I'm not controlling the show this time. Like I am, and I'm not. I just kind of stayed there listening. So much that I forgot to even thank on live. Otakabilla, thanks for gifting to community subs. Joey Ganoda, thanks for following us. James Wallace, thanks for following us too. But over here we have a slide where we actually have a picture of the omnidirectional setup that you guys have with like even some soundproofing.
This is an advanced version of the setup.
Oh, okay.
The soundproofing was a later purchase.
Mm-hmm.
We realized it was absolutely necessary.
Well, and this is the setup for one person to read a research piece.
Ah,
yeah,
this is nice.
There was a point where we put like a thick gym mat that we have that we like stood it up like a partition around us and threw a blanket over it to do a makeshift recording booth.
I remember recording under the blanket. There was a while when we had the microphone, the one you can see in that picture, and it was on a swivel arm, and we would swivel it back and forth between the two of us for whichever one of us was talking.
Wow.
Oof.
We've tried a lot of weird setups.
Well, I mean, when you're on a budget, you have to, because I mean, like I said, I know what it's like to try and stream off of a decade-old gateway that outlasted its own company. So yeah.
Shaun, aren't you wearing this shirt right now?
Yeah, I'm wearing my Patreon. Apparently, it's going to be a collector's item soon shirt.
Yeah, we're planning to discontinue the Frabo and the Orphans t-shirts.
It turns out having to request t-shirt sizes from people in order to mail those every month is a lot of extra work. And as we get more and more patrons, we're trying to do things where I don't have to contact anyone individually and find out what size t-shirt they wear.
We're also running space in our New York apartment where we store stacks of these t-shirts.
Okay.
And, the further we get from season 1 and first Gundam, the less sense the Frabo and the Orphans joke makes.
No, it's true. And being one of those people that was a pain in the butt to get a hold of for a shirt size, I'm sorry.
Well, the good news is that I forget the moment it's over.
And you're only bothering Nina, so I forgive you.
There you go. There you go. The thing is, Shaun is, I don't know if you guys have ever seen how tall Shaun is. He's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
We have not.
No, I'm tall.
He's tall. Like, I think it's mainly your legs, isn't it?
I do have a bit of torso, but I'm a lot of leg.
Yeah, he's a lot of leg.
Like a big Zam.
Yeah.
Mobile suits like
Yeah, like a big Sam.
How tall are you? Dronzy's asking how tall you are on the chat.
I'm 5'3".
Oh.
Nina, how tall are you?
I'm 5'3". I am small.
He's 5'3". Okay.
Well, I'm 6'1".
There you go.
When I stand up straight, I might be taller, but I hunch a little bit because I'm tall.
You'd be tall. You'd be tall. Tom, how tall are you?
My height is a classified secret.
Oh.
No, I'm like 5'7". I'm short.
It's all good. All good. We also have a short person in our team who's in the chat right now, and don't worry about it. Gumpla Hong over here, who says, just thought I would support a channel once in a while. Yeah, he's kind of short too, so it's all good. Don't worry about it. But what's the story behind the chicken and the GM inside of it?
That is actually Thanksgiving turkey.
Oh, there we go.
I guess I was brainstorming different low-cost marketing ideas. What could we post that people would like and share? And I had the idea to integrate some of our my gunpla, really, at that point, into Thanksgiving dinner preparations. And Nina was very patient with me.
Yeah, there's a whole series of these. One of them is stirring a cup of espresso. One is cutting green beans.
Nice.
I almost pulled some of those off of your guys' Instagram just to throw them into the slideshow further, but I was just like, I don't know, the screaming GM in the turkey is probably more than enough.
Yeah, I agonized over which ones to send you, and I think that was my favorite one. Mm-hmm. And it did really good. People liked it. People thought it was funny. I don't remember exact numbers at the moment, but it was at a point when we were very small and new, and it got more attention than almost anything else we had posted.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually glad you brought that up, because since we're talking about basically the community and the whole ecosystem of not YouTube but Instagram and social media in general, how did you guys find it? Like, did you guys see it more as a up-road battle when it came to be known, or for you guys to get your name out there? How did you guys deal with that?
Well, I remember to start out, Tom was really on top of sharing about us on the relevant subreddits, in Gundam online communities, getting our name out through communities he was already participating in and already a part of.
So ironically, kind of like how working at an anime convention means you don't watch anime anymore, once I started making the podcast, I basically dropped off of Reddit completely.
Really?
Well, I had another forum to talk about Gundam in, and
exhausting,
a much more pleasant co-host.
Exhausting all of your Gundam thoughts on the podcast.
Pretty much.
Wow.
But in basically every other avenue, I would say it has been very gradual. On Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, it's all been slow and constant. I do think as long as we keep putting out content, there's always some growth.
Yep.
But it's very gradual.
I don't think we've never had the moment when somebody like really huge puts you over. So it has been a very slow but steady growth over time, which I'm fine with.
Yeah.
I remember early on, of course, with any project, you're constantly nervous. You're worried you're doing things wrong, that it's all a waste of time and energy and money. And so early on, I had a lot of anxiety about the growth of the podcast. But I remember something that Mike Duncan, who is the podcaster behind Revolutions and before that History of Rome, said about podcasting, which was just that the growth is glacial. It's so slow. And every time I get worried about how slowly things are growing, I think back on that quote and I think about the cool things that he's doing now. And I think, all right, well, just because it's growing slowly doesn't mean I'm doing something wrong.
Well, it's such a hard topic to talk about, I feel, because I think it's definitely something that has been tapped in the community in general, especially when we get into talking to people on why they joined the community, right, or in the hobby itself, right? A lot of people join to be part of the community. Other people join because they want to get a sponsorship and they want to get views and they want to become popular online and all of that. And the reason I say that is because I definitely feel where you guys are coming from. Because when I started GTS, I started it off with one of my best friends in the hobby, Justin, who's Studio G, who has skyrocketed from last January till now, has almost 250,000 subscribers on YouTube. And when we became friends, he only had 32 subscribers, and seeing him grow and explode, right? And of course, he started GTS with me. He's not here with us anymore in the show because, he has to focus on his baby, which is Studio G. The guy has sponsorships up the wazoo, so he has to do those things, right? And he has a company to run now because he started his own line of paint and all of that. And I'm over here sitting and I talk to my wife and I'm like, am I doing something wrong? Is something going on where there's something missing where the growth isn't happening? And I've kind of just laid in the thought of, you know what? It's just going to happen when it happens. And if it doesn't happen, that's okay. At the end of the day, I'm here for the friends that I make within the community, right? Which is one of the biggest pushes that I do regarding GTS. And I think anybody who's watching us, who's part of the community and has been here for almost 2 years now, knows that we're here for the community. But I can totally understand where you guys are coming from. And I think Shaun might be able to relate to that too.
I mean, yeah, I can relate to it. Because I wasn't quite ground floor of when MSB started, but I was like, 2 or 3 floors up through Mobile Suit Gundam when I hopped on. But yeah, honestly, like it feels like the growth has been nice and steady. And it's just, yeah, seeing the growth of the show as you guys have gone along has been really cool. And I do see a lot of parallels to what we're trying to accomplish with GTS and even my kind of mediocre stream that as it is at the moment. It's all about patience, and I keep reminding Jess about that too.
Yeah, patience is key.
The other thing I always come back to is it was probably something someone shared on Twitter or something, but it's a bit from a book, and it's a conversation between 2 women who are both dance choreographers, but it sort of relates to art generally. And one is really torn. She's like, when I do work that I feel like it's great, nobody cares. And when I do work that I think is mediocre, people love it, and I don't trust my instincts anymore, and what even am I doing? And this, older and more experienced choreographer basically says, like, when you feel compelled to create something, you are the only person in the universe who can make that thing. Your responsibility is not to judge it, not to try to decide if it's good or bad. You just, like, if you feel compelled, then you need to create the thing and put it out into the world. And other people will feel about it however they feel about it, but, like, it's natural to be dissatisfied. It's natural to struggle with it, but recognizing that, like, that thing that you want to make, you're the only one who can do that is, I think, really empowering and special, and helps me take my mind away from the numbers a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I can vouch that the numbers are your worst enemy, because I sit there and I'll be watching my stream, or I'll sit there and I'll watch the numbers on a review that I submitted for GTS. I'm like, oh, nobody likes me. Okay, let's like I get a little bit of a funk about it, but then I remind myself, I'm like, I'm not doing it for those stupid numbers at the top. I'm doing it because I find it fun.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you made something that you can be proud of, and that's the most important thing. And to the extent that the numbers matter, like it's really like, for us, we want the podcast to be able to sustain us, like to pay for food and housing.
Yeah.
Enough for us to make the podcast. That's the extent to which the numbers really matter.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, as long as you're making something you're proud of, like that's what's really important.
Yeah. Really good point. Really good point.
Yeah.
Sorry guys, we got all super serious about it. But I do enjoy listening to other people's thoughts on the matter when it comes to doing things on social media. But something very interesting on this slide is the mobile suit breakdown over here with the I forget what is this, Dom? The Rick Dom?
Yeah,
that's the Dom. Yeah.
This was another one of the first things we made that got some attention. I think I did a research piece about this, and sometimes it's easier to show people with pictures than with words. And this is a great example of a situation where the inspiration is so evident in the mobile suit once you actually can put them side by side.
I'd never seen this, and I seen it for the first time here, and it's like, oh my god, it makes so much sense. So thank you for doing the research on this, because this paints a different picture. Wow, this is so awesome. Really cool.
I mean, that's been my experience making the podcast, is a lot of like discovering things that totally change my understanding of a particular aspect of Gundam or even a whole show.
Wow.
Well, I know when I go to tell people about the show, the one research piece that always kind of, for whatever reason, comes back in my memory is about the Japanese coffee farmers that you guys talked about on the episode with the old people on the white base.
Yeah.
Like, I never would have known that as I don't mean to say it in a bad way, but the xenophobia that Japan had at the time towards outsiders would even apply to the people who come back who aren't the same as they are anymore. I found that insanely fascinating when you guys were telling that one.
Yeah, that is one of my favorites that Thom has done, and is one of those things that unless you live in a region that has a lot of Japanese diaspora people, you might not know.
Well, I'm gonna have to take a listen to that one because that sounds interesting, to be honest, I think. But
I want to see episode 5.
Trust
yeah,
you.
it was super early on.
No, I think it was 5 or 6. It was definitely 5 or 6.
One of the things that I love about our dynamic is the minute that we're done with an episode, I forget everything that I did for it. I don't remember any of the research or the details of the episode or anything. Like, my brain empties to make room for the next thing. Thom, I'll be like, oh, when did we research such and such? And Thom will think for a moment and go, oh, I think that was season 2, episode 13.
Nice.
It all goes into the same part of my brain that remembers what mobile suits are called.
Well, as long as during that episode I get to listen to a train passing by, I'll totally go and listen to it.
Okay, if it's 6, it was definitely recorded after the train became a factor. If it's episode 5, it might have been recorded before the train.
Oh my god.
See, you had me at train, and now there's not gonna be no train. No, I'm kidding. I'll definitely have to go listen to that. But now I actually set the pun. We're gonna move on to the little pun that he had here. Well, Shaun, you're the one who did it, so I'll let you introduce.
Yeah, well, it's just combining Zeta and double Zeta, so it's MSB triple Zeta.
And it's funny because a lot of people fall asleep watching this, so let's go for it.
Extremely fierce burn there.
Hey, it's only what I've heard. Okay, it's only what I've heard.
Definitely had listeners say it in a very complimentary tone of voice. I love listening to your podcast as I fall asleep.
Oh, no. I didn't mean the podcast. I meant the show. I meant the series. I didn't mean you guys.
I know. I'm merely saying that sometimes to fall asleep too is what a person needs.
Okay. But Shaun, you had an idea for this slide.
Well, I mean, it was a transition for us to talk about kind of the seasons 1 through 3 and kind of the growth of the show. So I just thought it was really funny to combine the two, honestly.
I love it.
I'm a cheeky devil sometimes.
Well, now that we're talking about these seasons, I can tell you one of the nightmare production stories.
Oh yes,
which only applies to season 3, because, as Nina mentioned, we're on a ground floor here.
Oh, that's right.
And during the production of season 3, they started tearing up the street outside, and not a little bit. They started doing this for the whole block, several blocks on either side, and they did it over the course of literal months. So every day during regular work hours, they would be out there jackhammering or chainsawing or hammering pipes all day.
God,
Every day for months.
I had forgotten this. We had to completely change our work schedule so we could only record early in the morning or late at night.
I can imagine. Like being able to be on task at those times of day for something like a podcast. I can't imagine how easy that was.
Well, and then we're recording at the bookends of the day, and so during the day proper, we're trying to edit, we're trying to research and write. The whole time they're out there just sawing away with chainsaws 2 meters from the window.
Oh man,
sounds terrible. It sounds like you guys live in Calgary, the city of always under construction. That's what I've seen around here. So, but you guys were able to work through it. And now that you mentioned editing, something we didn't even talk about earlier, you had to learn a lot of editing, didn't you? Did you know any of that beforehand?
No,
Neither of us.
Gosh, I must have spent like 2 months messing around in Audacity, just figuring out how the program worked and learning the terminology, like what is a compressor, what is a noise gate, stuff like that. And at least twice during that process, I thought I had done something to completely ruin the audio that we had recorded.
Wow. Yeah, we can relate. Our editing didn't get good until we got Brian on board, and those were terrible times before he was part of the team. But he does it for a living, so editing goes well now.
I can even vouch because if Lexi were here, she would say how we attempted to do a Digimon podcast kind of in the vein of MSB, but we got one episode edited and we're like, yeah, neither of us can actually do this and have time. Like Lexi was supposed to edit and she's one of the most busy humans I've ever met. I don't know how she edited one episode. And we just opted to say, you know what? My computer can't handle it. You don't have the time. Let's try and maybe redo this a year or two down the road.
Let's see what happens.
Early on in the shortly after the Patreon launched, we were going to do an actual play, like tabletop RPG campaign set in the Gundam universe, because we're both tabletop role-playing game connoisseurs. And we had some friends who would join us for this. And we recorded 5 lengthy, multiple-hour sessions, did a whole little adventure module. And then it just sat on my hard drive waiting for when I had time to edit like 12 hours of 5 different people talking.
God.
It turned out that I just never had time to do that.
And we quietly removed it from the Patreon.
Nice. That's nice. Sometimes sacrifices need to be made, all right? It's understandable. Is editing? Go ahead, Tom.
No, go ahead.
And I was gonna say editing is not something to scoff at. It's you really have to sit there and focus. And editing can sometimes be fun, and sometimes it can become a chore. And you know, sometimes you make promises. I know it's happened on GTS. We wanted to do vlogs, and it's hell having to edit things like that. Even the fact when we started doing reviews like every week was terrible. Like we were literally dying trying to do editing. Right now I have to edit a video. I have another video. I have 3 videos to edit right now, and I'm barely finished with one. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and for example, with me, I having ADD makes it even worse because I can't sit at my computer for very long to do that kind of stuff. So it's just a nightmare and a half.
Yeah, I actually got diagnosed with ADD earlier this year, a while ago. I started, thanks to Twitter commentariat, I started reading all these tweets by adult women with ADHD, and I was like, oh, I relate to a lot of this. Maybe I should talk to a doctor. And I had times when I was trying to help Thom with editing, and I was making no progress, sitting at my computer for hours, and then just like crying with frustration. And now I'm medicated, and it's much easier.
Yeah, well, I remember with my Gallantmon review, I sat there, I was like, I hate this, and then Jess sat down, and he's just like, what the hell do you hate it for? It's good for a first review.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. You did a great job. Thom, I cut you off earlier, and I feel bad, and you never got to finish your thought.
Oh, no, it's fine. I was just saying that I've done a little bit of video editing during the course of the project, and it's so much harder than audio editing. So my absolute sympathies to anybody who has to do that, which it sounds like you do. So I'm sorry for your trouble.
Thank you. I'm just gonna start crying now. Thank you. It's just
right here.
I was gonna say, so regarding the first season, so seasons 1 to 3, because you guys are about to start season 4 in a bit, right? Which ones did you completely see? Did you guys see the original Mobile Suit, right? Gundam?
Yeah, we started at the very beginning with the first episode of Mobile Suit Gundam. We watched all 43 episodes of that show, including the lost episode, Kukuru's Doan's Island, which is not easily obtained. Then we watched the compilation movies, we watched Zeta, we watched Double Zeta, and we are about to start watching SD Gundam. And then Char's Counterattack after that.
Oh, so you guys haven't seen Char's Counterattack?
We've seen it. We've actually basically made most of the season, but in the fiction of the podcast, we have yet to release a public episode, and so we haven't seen it. Quotation marks attached.
They haven't seen it, guys. Go away. All right. Yeah. They haven't seen
No spoilers.
No spoilers. What did you guys think of the original Gundam? We were talking about this a little bit earlier, so disclaimer, we were talking a little bit about it earlier, and I mentioned to Thom and Nina that I'm not a big fan of the original series, not because it's a bad series, but because of the animation. I was just completely taken out of it while watching it. But I want to hear what you guys thought of it.
I was mostly pretty surprised by its intensity. Those first couple of episodes are really dark and tense and heavy in a way that I was not expecting. And actually watching those few episodes with Thom was another part of what convinced me we could do the podcast. Was I like, okay, there's a lot to discuss here. Got it. Because I was a little skeptical of those kind of shows, but yeah, I really enjoyed First Gundam. I thought it was a great story.
Yeah, Nina learned that unlike other mecha shows, this one is actually about the characters. Yeah, I had seen it before, but a long time ago, and I was actually struck by how good it looks, because and I know that's going to sound a little crazy to people, but when you're not watching it, when you're just seeing the memes, when you're seeing the in-between shots, when the Gundam's proportions are all wonky, or you're looking at GIFs, you kind of miss how good it looks. Like they're struggling, you know, it's late 70s animation. The budget wasn't great. Didn't have a ton of time, but it looks really good. And they do amazing things with what they have.
Yeah.
And a lot of that just comes down to, like, it's really well directed. Even if there aren't a lot of frames of animation, they're constructed in interesting ways, and they convey so much emotion.
I always wonder if part of Tomino's good storyboarding is because he went to film school and so was used to thinking about things in those terms of like shot composition.
Although I should mention he went to film school, but he did skip all his classes.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
So he
I mean,
went
that's
to
the
school.
most Tomino thing I've ever heard. So
Yeah, he thought that the classes were not teaching anything that was interesting, either practically or theoretically, and so he didn't go.
Okay, so he's effectively self-taught then.
So he's a prodigy. That's basically what he is.
He was adjacent to a film school.
Yeah. On the topic of how dark the episodes were, I think that's one of the things that I do enjoy about Mobile Suit Gundam. Though I haven't seen the whole series, the original, I do know about it because I'm in the hobby and I had to read up on it. But the way that they tackle war and how realistic it is without it being realistic because of the mobile suits. Is that something that you guys have explored? Or did you guys see any parallels with real life within that?
So a huge portion of our research in that first season focused on how that first Gundam show, in a lot of ways, is obviously influenced by World War II.
Yeah.
And so drawing parallels between different events of the show and World War II specific events. And even just the way the mobile suits fight each other off of the ships is very much like aircraft carriers and fighter planes. And
yeah, I mean, when like to do some sort of like trivial examples of this, just in the naming, like there's a Battle of Solomon, just like the Battle of the Solomon Islands.
Mhm.
Kai Shiden is the name of a Japanese fighter plane. They had a Shiden Kai. Like Amuro Ray is basically the name of the Japanese Zero fighter. So there's a lot of those just like influences from World War II being dragged into the show. So a lot of the first season was us trying to like decode that.
Mm-hmm.
not to mention the whole Xeon kind of being a basically Nazi Germany allegory all the way through.
All Xeon fans are covering their ears right now.
If I have to be honest with you, there's definitely some of the Nazi Germany there, but I really think Imperial Japan is the more pertinent analogy there, and it's one that's harder for us as Americans to recognize because so much of it is like stuff you would only recognize if you were a Japanese person or you grew up in Japan and went to a Japanese school and watched Japanese movies about the war.
Or lived in parts of Asia that were invaded and colonized.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tomino, he's pretty cagey about his past, at least in the English interviews, but there's been some stuff coming out recently from some of the books he's written or interviews he's done in Japanese. His dad was an engineer in the army, very much like Amuro's dad. And his dad, through his time in the army, knew about some of the really atrocious things that Japan did in Asia during the war. And so Tomino knew about those things at a pretty young age.
Yeah.
You can see him channeling that rage into First Gundam.
Mm-hmm. That's extremely interesting, and I'm glad. Like this all makes me want to. Like, I haven't listened to a podcast not because I haven't wanted to. It's just because I don't. It's difficult for me to sit down and listen to a podcast, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I mean,
totally.
I did all my podcast listening before working on our own podcast because now I basically don't listen to anything. But it was always doing art projects. I would put it on while I was painting, while I was making things.
Yeah, I can only listen to podcasts when I'm doing chores or cooking dinner. You know, I definitely can't listen to podcasts when I'm working on our own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I'm the same way. I literally, it's you guys and My Favorite Murder that are the only two podcasts I listen to, and it's usually either when I'm doing chores or commuting. So I get it.
Yeah, it's funny when the pandemic started and the work from home orders started going out. Our podcast, but also every other podcast I know of, saw like a 30% drop in listeners or more, because so many people listen on their commute or at the gym. Or at work.
That's actually
that's kind of a good segue for us to talk about the podcast during the pandemic, because that's one of our slides.
Oh my god, I'm gonna go all the way to that slide, guys. Forget everything you saw all the way up to there, okay? Gundam.
I'm sorry, I should have. I if I'd have known, we would have ended up on pandemic.
God damn it, Shaun! Why couldn't you see the future? Gundam.
Because I'm not a new type, Jess.
Gundam in the time of the event, aka COVID. So you guys, I did not know that. In fact, I think for us it was a little different. In fact, I think GTS was able to grow a little bit more because we started right as the pandemic was beginning, and more people were staying home, building Gunpla and watching the show.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys, the commute, I never thought about it that way. So you guys saw that also with your numbers? Is that something I can ask? I don't know if I can ask that.
Yeah. I'm always happy to talk about the numbers. Yeah, we saw basically a 30% drop in March, I want to say, or maybe it was May. I think it was May when most places started doing work from home. So yeah, in May we saw like a 30% drop, and then it slowly crept back up, and we were back to the old levels by like November.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's something I'd never thought about, and I can agree with that because the only time I have ever actually listened to you guys, not in a bad way, but because if it wasn't for Shaun, I wouldn't know about you guys.
Right.
It was
Thanks,
whenever
Shaun.
we go down to Lethbridge or wait, what did you say, Tom?
I just said thanks, Shaun.
Yeah, no, Shaun has been a big kind of if anything, I think he mentioned it to you guys before the show started. We really want GTS to become, aside from interviewing just Gunpla people, people who build the plastic models, we want to do more things that aren't really related to Gunpla all the time, just Gundam in general or things like that.
Yeah,
and
community
you guys,
adjacent.
exactly. And I know that he definitely listens to, like, I can completely vouch for him. He's a fan because he listens to you guys when he's on his way to Lethbridge, when he's on his way to work, when he's on his way to anywhere. He's listening to either you guys or My Favorite Murder. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't know about this. And the fact that you guys take so much time to investigate and do your research is really inspiring, if anything. But moving on to the Gundam in the time of COVID, did you guys see? Did you guys have more time to investigate things, or how did you guys feel during that time?
Well, so we had actually gone full time with the podcast almost from the beginning. We had some savings, and so we said we're going to give this a shot. We'll give it a year and see how we do, and then decide where we're going from there.
Yeah.
So what was actually a problem was that over time we were spending too much time working
Mm-hmm.
because it was a way to not think about what was going on, and because we didn't have anywhere to be. So, I would look up and it'd be 8 o'clock, and I would have worked since 8 in the morning because work is a gas and will fill the space that you give it.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so we've actually been having to try to like adjust back from that sometimes and tell each other like, okay, we're off the clock now, go do something fun.
Yep.
Well, I remember early on in the pandemic, I noticed that you guys were working, but there was a lot of stuff going down in New York, and I'm like, I better check in on Thom and Nina, make sure they're doing okay over there, because there was some scary stuff going on in New York at that point.
New York was hit really hard, wasn't it? If I remember and I recall, because I have some friends in New York, you guys were like one of the epicenters.
Yeah, New York was hit hard and earlier than a lot of other places. I don't remember exactly when it was, but at one point, fairly early on, I think shortly after the lockdown, there was a point where we weren't sure emotionally. We felt up to making the episode, and we recorded a bonus episode.
Hello?
Trying to reconnect.
Oh,
Oh, hello.
Hello?
Hey guys, I thought we lost you. I was scared.
Oh no!
we just got disconnected briefly during that story, but we are back.
Okay.
Where did you lose us?
you did the bonus episode.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, just talking about what things were like and how we were feeling and things like that, and getting it out, we felt a lot better, and then went on to finish the episode for the week. So being able to talk about it for a while, the regular episodes, I did a little like New York update at the beginning of each episode, and it helped us feel a little better and do all of the normal work part of it.
Although people tell us now, sorry, this is not a problem, but people tell us now how eerie it is listening to those old episodes where you do the updates on like what's going on in New York with COVID that week.
Oh, I didn't even think of that because I haven't gone back to those episodes.
Yeah, I mean there are people making their way through the podcast every day and stumbling upon those episodes.
Yeah, that would be an unsettling time capsule, like 3-4 years down the road from now.
I think a lot about how, you know, we make the podcast in the moment, and it lasts functionally forever, which has like good and bad sides. Sometimes we'll say something and then a week later we'll learn that what we said was wrong, not because we were wrong at the moment, but because new information has come to light. Which is always embarrassing, because then you know that someone eventually is going to email you and be like, excuse me, you were wrong about X, Y, and Z, which I know because of this thing.
Well, in 3 years, we're going to get angry emails about season 1.
Well, I mean, someone's going to get mad at the tin can audio in the first episode, and then just tell them, you know, that thing's a legacy. Don't judge it.
Yeah, I think most of those people just stop listening, which is its own problem. But yeah, you know, I think this happens to every every internet project. But like, if you look at the specific numbers for downloads for episodes, you know, the first episode has like twice as many as the second episode, and the second episode has twice as many as the third episode, and it keeps decreasing like that until you get up to like episode 10 or something, and then it's pretty consistent.
Yeah, you're basically kind of finding your audience and the people who are going to stay, right? Yeah,
and
the way.
We were talking about the numbers earlier and how it can be depressing thinking about them too much sometimes. So you look at that number and it's like, wow, you know, some astronomical number of people have listened to the first episode and stopped.
Yeah.
No, that's it happens. It happens more than you think. I think our first video here on GTS, the first ever video with Chris, Justin, and I, has 1,600 views, and then everything else keeps declining until eventually it kind of reaches its audience that, you know, that people actually do watch it. So
then we get those weird outliers.
Yeah, then we get those. Well, it depends on the people that we have on. Like, I know, like, it's a Gundam one that's got almost 5,000 views already, because of how popular he is. But yeah, no, you definitely have your outliers when it comes to that. But yeah, I can definitely see that. Real quick though, Shaun, what is the radio free recap versus audio drama?
Okay, so season 1 they did recaps of the previous episode, but starting in season 2 it turned into, well, TNN with Tom Thompson and Nina's daughter, and then season 3 was Radio Free Shangri-La. And yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about that decision to transition from recaps to audio dramas.
So I mean, Nina kept doing the recaps. You know, we still have a sort of standard, like, here is what happened in the episode, so that we're all on the same page when we start discussing it. But in season 2, this has the most innocent possible origin, which is that I legitimately thought that people would need a little bit of help remembering what had happened last week, because when you only cover one episode a week, it's a pretty slow pace and people can forget. And so I was like, okay, if we do the proper recap, and that's like 8 minutes, then I'll do a mini recap of what happened last time, and that'll just be a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. And I thought, Nina is already doing like a straight read of the recap. We should do something to differentiate this sort of pre-recap. And what if we did like an in-universe news show? So we created these fake newscaster personas, sort of dark mirror inverses of ourselves, and started recording like brief, sort of semi-funny at first, I guess.
Well, it was sort of meant to be like the nightly news, but told from the Xeon perspective.
Or the Titans perspective.
Sorry, Titans perspective.
And I guess I was really inspired by like Starship Troopers and the Verhoeven movie and the like, would you like to know more? style of very peppy, like monster people news. And so I started writing those, and then every time I tried to outdo myself from the prior week, and it just evolved into this increasingly
Strange
story about these two newscasters in the Universal Century in the Gundam world who are like always just off screen of whatever is happening in the show.
Mm-hmm. Well, they became their own weird beast too, because like there would be stuff that's happening, but it's incredibly bizarre twist on what happened in the episode. Like the Tom Thompson and the giraffes or whatever it was.
The giraffes.
Yeah, and part of this is the desire to be like, what would it actually be like to live in this world, right? We see Gundam as this very, at least at this point, very space operatic, very arch, very melodramatic, high stakes, important people, fast mobile suits. But like, what about the randos? What about the newscasters and the people who work in this facility before it gets blown up? Like, how are they reacting to all of this? And so it was about sort of telling that story and also kind of trying to evoke the feeling, the tone of the show that we were covering, which is why when we finished Zeta and switched to Double Zeta, which is a very different show, we had to come up with a very different version of this story, but still with the two persistent characters of Thom and Nina.
And so it replaced with a like a audio drama collective.
Yeah, it's Radio Free Shangri-La, which is the one you have the image for, is a collective of sort of amateur, semi-amateur content creators in this Shangri-La colony where Double Zeta starts, and they're trying to make audio dramas. And the inspiration for this is that in Double Zeta, the tone is all over the place. Every episode feels like it came from a different show. And they go, and there's a whole section of the show where they're just like going to a different village or town every episode and meeting a different cast of characters and learning of their different struggles. And I was like, I should do a bunch of different genres of classic radio drama, like a detective story and a Western and a space adventure like Buck Rogers, to get that sense of all the different conflicting tones. But then there's a core cast of the actors who are actually putting all of this together, and their storylines then start intersecting with the fictional story they're telling, which to me is very funny because, of course, like that's what the whole project is. The whole project is Nina and I interacting with the fictional story of Gundam that we are following, and then creating our own fiction within it that we are characters in.
It's as long as you're having fun, because that sounds fun. Like,
yeah, it's incredibly fun.
I'm right at the point where you're doing the Crisis of Infinite audio dramas. I'm just like, this is the most bizarre thing I've ever heard, and I love every moment of it.
I'm glad you love it. It's very polarizing.
Which is how we know it's art.
Yeah, exactly.
I love. It's nice to see how both of you feed off each other's energy. Do you think that being a couple has helped this project move along better? Or has there been some difficulty at times with like clashing of ideas?
Oh, we definitely have idea clash.
Oh yeah.
I was thinking just earlier how lucky we are that we work well together, because we didn't know that would be the case going in.
Yeah.
The closest thing to a collaborative project we've done in the past was probably when we planned our wedding.
Okay.
That's not a great.
I know that's not a great example. It didn't work nearly as well.
But we also absolutely have moments, and this is one of the things that it's nice that we get so much editing time because it lets us do this. But we'll disagree about something, and one or the other of us will start to feel defensive, and we'll have to be like, okay, shut it down, stop recording. I love you. You love me. We respect each other.
Yeah.
We disagree but it's okay. Let's go like chill for an hour and then come back and record when we feel better.
Yep. Yeah, the editing process is really important to us, both because we can take out swear words and long, awkward pauses and that time that you couldn't say the word rallied. But also because being married, we're really comfortable with each other. And we talk through ideas that aren't fully developed. We can develop them. We can maybe realize that actually that idea is bad, and then remove it in the editing process.
Yeah. That's cute. I love hearing that because I just hearing you guys talk and with each other and like the stories you guys have, it really goes to show that you guys are aside from a couple. I think what really works well with your dynamic is it feels like you guys are best friends also.
I would say that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, because I think it's very important, and it's also very difficult, and I applaud the whole idea of actually going into a project with your significant other and you know, making it as successful as it has been right now. So that's pretty cool. I like that. But it's nice to know that you guys check up on each other and like, all right, we love each other. Let's get this right. And I think
your opinions about that character. I still love you.
Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say I just was wrapping up the episode where you guys had that. You've disclosed that you guys had a heated discussion over Rue when the episode where she runs away, and I was like, oh yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah,
it happened. It happened a fair amount with Camille, because as I think I kind of let slip on the podcast, I identify with Camille pretty strongly. And so, you know, he is a good space boy. And when Nina disagreed on that point, there was some hurt feelings sometimes.
Well, it can be really difficult if one or the other of you identifies with a character and then the other person doesn't like that character. It's like, oh, are you saying you don't like me? Or even just disagreeing about a read of a particular event or an interpretation of something, because it can be really difficult, as I think social media shows us every day, to disagree without insulting each other.
Yeah. Communication is key, guys, in your relationships. Okay. This goes to the audience. Whatever relationship you're in, be it friendship or be it in a committed relationship with your significant other, communication is key. But aside from you guys being best friends, and of course, I think you mentioned earlier, Thom, or I think it was Nina, I forgot who said that you guys have a good judging on like friends, on who you guys get to be friends with, which I think is a good Huh?
Here, I'm happening.
Yeah. And I think it's a good segue onto the consultants and guests that you guys have had on your show.
With the little subtitle saying AKA poor Dr. Shar.
Dr. Shar. She suffers so much.
Mostly because she really doesn't like dealing with teens, and all the so far have been teens.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
Their brains just aren't fully formed yet.
And they're hitting them with all kinds of trauma.
Yep. Yeah, we haven't yet had guests on the podcast who we don't know personally.
That's not true.
Wait, what?
Dr. Bailey.
Oh, you're right. That's true. That was such a long time ago now.
Well, in Sarah Costumes.
Well, we're friends with Sarah now.
We are now, but we weren't before that. There's a story. There's a character arc to the podcast's use of consultants, which we will now spool out for you.
Go ahead.
Oh, early on, I think both out of a certain amount of just like not being super confident and also feeling a little stressed about our production schedule, we stuck to guests who we know personally. So it's all people who we know from other activities, people we've been friends with a long time, who have relevant perspective and were willing to come on and record with us for, an hour or two.
And there's a technical aspect to all of this too, which is that by the time we started making the podcast, I was relatively confident recording people in person, but had no idea how to do it remotely. And so until the pandemic, all of the guests recorded in person in our studio. Studio is the fancy word for our apartment. So every single guest came here and we recorded with them. And so it was natural that it would mostly be people we knew and trusted and liked, and we knew what their expertise was. And we had the very incredibly good fortune of knowing a bunch of people with relevant expertise.
It's a good idea to go with people that you guys already know. It kind of takes away that middleman where you have to kind of hope that when you guys meet up, you guys get along and there's that chemistry.
Yeah.
Right? So it's
Which
already
we've experienced a couple of times.
Yeah, we've definitely. Well, I've been doing this since day one, and I've been on every show since day one. So every guest that has been on this show has I've been with. But I think I've only at once. I'm not gonna disclose who because I don't want to be that person. But there has been there's two. One of them we didn't do a show with them. We ended up I completely ended up canceling on the person because he thought he was really popular and shit, but he's nothing. And then the other guy we've had on the show, but I didn't really feel a connection. I'm not gonna say who, but it was difficult for me to kind of, and I've been doing this for a while. So when I say it was difficult to really kind of feel comfortable with the person. But you guys having your friends come over, I think it also makes room for little jokes between you guys and that being comfortable with them. Who exactly have you had on the show is my next question, like, because I'm looking at these pictures and I don't know any of these people.
Sure. So from left to right, Dr. Shar is a friend of ours who is a neuropsychologist. So she studies brains, people's psychology, but the interaction of like the fleshy, actual physical brain and the personalities that flow from it. So we've had her on the show a bunch of times now to talk about characters' psychologies, about their personalities, about the trauma they've experienced and how that's expressed in their personas. The next one is Iraj. Iraj is our physics consultant. He mostly studies very small, squishy things that move around, but we've asked him to study very large metal things as well, which he's enough to do. The next one is Shaun. Shaun, one of several Shauns who's come on the podcast. Shaun is a fight choreographer, mostly for stage, but so he's familiar with how fight choreography works, and he's done some stunt work in films, and so he's our sort of fight choreography expert. We brought him on for the duel in Texas between Amuro and McVeigh in First Gundam with the Gyan and the old Gundam, to talk about how that fight is put together on a choreography level. The one hidden behind the Kakushiki mask is also Shaun. Shaun is a good friend, a longtime Gundam fan, and although he now works in a different field, he studied theater, he studied theatrical tradition and technique, and specifically mask theater. And so he's come on the show a couple of times to just talk about Gundam lore, but also to talk about how we can view mobile suits as kind of masks for characters.
Wow.
And then the last one on this slide is Edward, who is a friend who is also a voice actor and does voiceover narration for books and stuff. And so he's come on to talk about that aspect of the show.
Very cool. I was scared that Edwards was actually going to be another Shaun. I was like, is this another Shaun? All of a sudden, I think everybody in their life has at least one Shaun. You know,
like 5 Shauns.
Yeah, like 5. Yeah, let's be honest. That's really cool.
All different ways of spelling Shaun too.
Yeah, we do.
Yes, there's the SHAWN. There's the Shaun, my Shaun, SHAUN, and then there's so many other. What is there? SEAN.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Yeah, no, that name. But that's really cool. You guys have all this whole lineup of guests, and you guys seem to enjoy bringing on your friends. Are they also comfortable with the whole aspect of being recorded, or do they bask in the glory of it, or are they also kind of nervous about it?
I would say most of them enjoy it a lot and are not very nervous about it.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the benefits of, they're not like, they don't look at the numbers. They don't talk to the listeners. They come on as guests. They talk about a thing they know about with people they're comfortable with. So they're kind of insulated from the sort of niche internet micro celebrity aspect of it that can be kind of intense.
Yeah.
And Thom always is really good about making a point of getting the audio to people ahead of time so they can hear it and approve it. And if there's anything that they're not comfortable with in it, they can ask him to cut it, and always is very sort of respectful of our guests in that way.
Wow. Props to you guys, I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say one cool thing about the development of the podcast is that as we've gotten more plugged into the larger Gundam fandom and larger animation fandom, we've met other people who are able then to come onto the podcast and broaden our suite of potential guests. We mentioned earlier Sarah McCostumes, who is a costume designer and cosplayer and was a guest host on the Gundam podcast Wow Cool Robot. But they came onto the show to talk about Ireland in First Gundam and in Double Zeta, because they're from Northern Ireland.
Well, not in First Gundam.
She came on in season 3, but she talked about season 1 a little bit.
She wound up on our radar because she did a whole thread about Belfast, critiquing that we hadn't talked about Belfast in First Gundam. She's like, you guys talk about everything in so much depth. Like, how could you not talk about Belfast?
And then I basically responded, come on my show and debate me.
You won't?
So
nice.
She this thread of pictures, screenshots from First Gundam and pictures of actual Belfast in the 70s, and it's like 1-to-1. It's like it's really accurate what they drew. So she came on to school us about the role of Ireland in Gundam, which was really fun, and it was so much fun that we have invited her back for season 4, and we're excited for that. We have a couple of other new guests joining us for season 4 as well.
Cool.
Very cool. Very cool. Can't wait.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
It's gonna be soon.
Yeah, it's coming out next week for free listeners, and it's coming out tonight for patrons in like less than 2 hours.
There you go, Shaun. Let me use your Patreon account.
I've got catching up to do.
Shaun, your only job. No. Shaun, what's been your favorite guest? Because you listen to these guys.
Well, there's a reason I put the poor Dr. Shar. I really do enjoy the episodes where Dr. Shar comes on because, partly I feel bad for what she has to examine and what's been done to these poor kids in space. But getting her yelling at the other characters in the show is really fun too.
Have you listened to the episode where she actually throws her table and you can hear it on the mic?
I can't remember. I'm not. When did that one happen?
Gosh, I guess it was probably in season 2. She got so angry that she threw her table.
Then I probably have heard it and I just forgot the table throwing part.
He was traumatized by it, so probably took it off. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I will say, though, I also just recently listened to the Iraj when he was on talking about, what is it, shattering or the spreading out of the particle beams with water?
Yeah.
That was incredibly fascinating to listen to, including your theory on the dolphins being used.
Thank you. I'll have to tell him
that. We're going to move on to the research part. And the reason I'm moving on to this because I'm looking at another picture I've never seen, and I kind of want to get into it. And since I'm guessing, Thom, was this you? The demon goof?
Yeah, that. I think actually everything on this page is me.
Well, except for the Glemmy. I did the Glemmy research.
Yep.
Yeah.
Glemmy is a toilet boy research.
Please, Thom, enlighten me here, because this is super cool. I know that probably Shaun put this on here because the goof is one of his favorites ever. So tell us.
So this is really interesting because this both combines what I was talking about before with the Dom and how you have these mobile suits that really can be kind of transparent in their influences once you actually know what those influences are or have some guesses. And also because this is an example of a case where new information came to light after I had made this that I really wish I had known when I put this together. So the goof here is a pretty clear homage to the classic depictions of the Oni or ogre or demon in Japanese mythology, down to the big club that it wields, the blue color, especially as distinct from green and red Oni, which are other classic colors both of Oni and of Mobile Suit. The very prominent horns on the goof all sort of evoke this idea of the Oni. And then you can also see, I've got there a picture of a medieval Japanese weapon, which was basically like a kind of flexible iron rod that police officers would carry that they would use to non-lethally beat people, or semi-lethally beat people.
Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah.
And the goof has this whip that it uses in the show, which I think is inspired, at least partly, by that semi-flexible rod that the police officers would use. However, Shaun, who was on the previous slide, the one in the Hyakushiki mask, discovered this fascinating thing, which is that if you look at the poster for the movie Barbarella, if you look at the poster for the movie Barbarella, which was included in Japanese sci-fi magazines in the late 1970s, there is, in one corner of it, a villain who it looks almost exactly like a goof and has a whip in its hand, almost exactly like the whip that the goof uses. And in an interview with Okuara Kunio, the designer of the goof, he said, "I was inspired by that Barbarella poster."
Oh my, I'm looking at it right now. You're right. There, yeah. Wow. You guys really go to town on this investigation. Oh my God.
We're very curious people, and we can, because we do the podcast as our job for a living, we can devote the time to looking into these kind of things.
So cool.
And one of the really cool things about the podcast is that it becomes kind of a lightning rod for this kind of research and thinking and talking about Gundam. A lot of people will be like, "Oh, I thought of this really cool thing. I thought of this cool connection, or I did this research and I discovered this thing." And then they'll send it to us because they know we're interested in it and we have an audience who wants to hear that kind of thing.
Now, Shaun, you titled this The Good, the Bad, and the Yikes. Is there a yikes moment that you were referring to?
Yeah, it's Glemmy. It's just entirely Glemmy.
So this character, his name is Glemmy Toto. And there's also a toilet company called Toto. And I, through my research, discovered that it would not be unreasonable to think that the toilet company was the inspiration for his name, because they had some famous TV ads on at that time. They had just released a new built-in bidet thing for toilets that was brand new at that time. Now Japanese toilets are famous for heated seats and bidets and adjustable this and that, but it was brand new technology at that time.
Yeah.
And one of their ads caught a bunch of flack because it was on right around dinner time in the evening, and then a bunch of people complained that they shouldn't be showing ads about washing butts while people were having dinner. And there's no one from that the Double Zeta team has ever said the toilets were the
Actually,
have they?
This is another thing that came out after we did this segment. Zeonic Scanlations, who's a longtime member of the Gundam online community and translates a ton of obscure old reference materials, translated an interview with one of the writers for Double Zeta, in which the writer was talking about Glemmy and a lot of the sort of interesting things about his character and how he was developed. And he's asked about the name, and he says, well, in regards to the name, I hope you won't think it's too weird that I thought of it when I was sitting in my bathroom.
There we go. There you go, Nina.
That's your statement that it's actually inspired by the name of the toilet brand.
I'll be honest, I actually forgot about the toilet brand thing. I was actually tying him more to
the fact that he's
with
sex pest.
Yeah, with Lina and Pudu and all of the stuff that's tied to Pudu. And
yeah, these were some of those really intense, heavy, difficult research pieces.
Yeah,
because if you're familiar with the darker sides of anime, you know that there's a lot of sexualization of young girls.
Yes,
and
of course, yeah.
Double Zeta was made like in the middle of a boom time for that subgenre, and there's a very compelling theory that LP Puru's name comes from the nickname for one of these magazines of pornographic manga of children.
Wow.
Which was the full name of the magazine was Lemon People, but it was abbreviated to L People, and that would be pronounced LP Puru, which is LP Puru's name.
And you guys, I'm telling, this is scary. Have you guys ever gone so deep that you guys kind of get scared of all the information? You guys are fear that they're watching you guys uncover all these truths?
I do occasionally worry what might happen if somebody involved in the production actually found out about us.
Wait, didn't some Gunpla, or not Gunpla, some Gundam person block you on
Yeah,
Twitter?
one of the I think Kobayashi Makoto blocked the podcast on Twitter. We didn't do anything. We just tried to follow him, and he immediately blocked us.
No, these guys. Oh wow, this is amazing work that you guys are doing, honestly. And over here on the left, I think you guys are kind of pointing out that this might be a real weapon, or is it a camera? There's a camera.
It's a camera, but it's very much not a real camera, which was surprising to me because often when things like this show up, they are clearly based on real cameras. And this one has an actual brand name on it. It has a real actual camera company's name on it. And I looked at every camera that company made, which is a lot of cameras, and looked at them in quite great detail and concluded that this exact camera takes elements from lots of their cameras of the time, but does not correspond to any real camera.
Wow.
And this was a research piece where we had to be like, yeah, I spent like
a day,
way more than that, looking at cameras and learning about cameras and not finding this camera.
I spent a week, and my conclusion is this camera does not exist. There you go. That was awesome.
Honestly, I got a good laugh at the end of that because it was basically, did I waste my time? Maybe. Was it fun? Yes.
Wow. Yep. You guys are really knee deep in there. And I'm guessing that the books in the middle belong to Nina?
Both of us. This is a collection of all the books that we had accumulated for the podcast at the time that we took that picture.
Wow.
And that probably represents maybe a third of all the books that we have now.
Wow.
Yeah, we had
dedicated.
We had to buy a new bookcase, and
we had to buy several new bookcases.
We also got smart and set up an Amazon wish list, and so now people who want to kick us a little more support will buy us a book off of our Amazon wish list.
And people have just been incredibly generous with that. It's always exciting when a book shows up and there's a little note in it that says, like, enjoy the gift from a listener.
Wow.
Well, I will say I do have one of the books in those piles. I have the Gods and Robots book. I still need to read it, actually.
It's sitting next to my desk. I think I've read a couple of chapters. I need to read more.
On the chat, real quick, Chris Pow says hello. He says MSBD is such a fun and very informative podcast. Keep it up, guys. The reason I'm singling out Chris Pabs is because he also has a podcast that's really cool to listen to. It's the Sideways podcast, or Build Sideways, which kind of is more focused on the Gunpla scene of things. But yeah, he just wanted to say keep it up, guys. So Chris Pabs listens to you guys. That's pretty cool.
Thank you.
There you go. But moving on, we have MSB Adventures Off the Air.
Oh yeah.
So in the before times, we went to Anime NYC when Tomino was there. We got him to sign our Blu-rays of First Gundam. On the inside of the jacket, there's a little Haro and his signature.
Yeah, for anyone who didn't go to that con, they did a lottery, a raffle basically, to get a chance to get Tomino to sign something for you. And I struck out, but Nina was very lucky and got the signing.
Nice.
Wow.
And we were sitting in the front row at the interview with him. We had a very fun experience of somebody got up to ask him a question at one point, and he wouldn't answer it because it wasn't about one of his series. But she mentioned something about herself that we were immediately like, that's a person we have to go talk to.
Yeah.
Because it was somebody studying anime and specifically Gundam Wing.
Yes.
For a master's dissertation in history. And so that was something we were like, oh, that's a person we need to know.
Wow.
And the Haro cake is from, we threw the podcast a first birthday party and had a bunch of friends over, and I decorated a small robot piñata to look like an original Gundam.
Cool.
And made Haro.
Nice.
And we had people over and had a little celebration.
Yep. The before times would have people over.
Yeah, when you could have friends over. I know. We were there. We were there just a month and a half ago?
Yeah,
2 months
our
ago?
province completely went off the deep end, and they're
yeah.
slowly climbing out of the pool again.
They were like, oh, hey, guys, we should just meet up and not wear masks. But anyway, real quick, Kid Chaos, who is a supporter of the channel, says, I was there in the back. So he says he was there. Probably in that picture somewhere in the back, but he went. Because he's also a New York native. So he was probably there, too.
Do you remember the first question that got asked? That this is not a question, this is a story, Kid Chaos?
God.
Noble.
Oh.
Not one of those.
It was wild because I have never seen a crowd turn on someone so fast. There was so much booing.
Were you guys part of the booze?
No comment.
It really was. I felt like that would have been excessive. Other people were clearly handling it, but
Okay. You guys got it for me. He says he doesn't remember, but he says, I think that was the con where they showed clips of the narrative movie.
they did, which we didn't go to. Or did you go?
No, I didn't go.
They showed clips of
They
one
definitely
of the
showed
movies.
clips of Gundam movies. Yeah.
Yeah. It might have been Reconquista.
I think it was the first G-Reco movie.
Yeah.
Screen.
That would make sense.
There you go. Ninja Master 551, who follows you guys, says, I was tempted to kick that guy's ass.
I think
Wait,
a
so
lot
what
of
did he ask? I need to know.
Well, so basically he didn't ask. He told like a long rambling story about a time that he was in Japan, and the moderator kept telling him like, get to the question.
I really hope this guy is not in the chat right now.
I hope he is. I hope he knows how bad he fucked up.
And then I don't remember what the actual question was, but there was sort of a long rambling story at the head of the question. It was not very punchy, and there was a long line of people who wanted to ask things, and so people didn't have a lot of patience for that.
Wow.
There's always one of them, and they always end up at the front of the line.
Yeah.
Somehow.
I've heard that about cons, yeah. And I guess you would know, wouldn't you?
No, technically, I haven't had my first con. My first con got canceled.
His first con was online. It's all been online.
Yeah.
How about the organic turmeric?
Oh gosh, this is the other thing people send us, because we've talked about how we need lots of tasty teas, lemons, gingers, turmeric, things like that, to keep us healthy and our voices in good shape.
Oh,
And
okay.
so people will sort of airdrop tea on us, which of course we love. I'm drinking some of it right now.
Yeah, we go through a lot of tea in the winter. New York apartment buildings are mostly steam heat, and so it can get very dry.
Mm.
And we go through a lot of tea.
Well, there you go, guys. Go check them out and go send them some tea because they need it because it's about to be winter.
Yep.
Head on over to do that. So you guys have a lot of adventures off the air then.
Not
Or
so
used
many,
to.
but yeah. Oh, one of the first the first moment I was like, whoa, about the podcast was I went to a screening, I think, of Char's Counterattack in at a real theater in Brooklyn on the big screen, and we had sat down to watch it, and there was a problem with the projection, and they were going to move us to another theater, and I said something out loud about this, and a guy in the row in front of me turns around and is like, "Are you Thom from Mobile Suit Breakdown?"
Oh God. What did you say?
Yes, I am.
Yes. Why, of course, sir.
Like a sticker. I happen to have some stickers with me.
Wow. That's dedicated to immediately pick out your voice.
Mhm.
And this was early. The podcast had only been going for 6 months or something at this point.
Wow. That's so cool. That's super cool.
It was super
Mhm.
cool.
We do occasionally think about the fact that if somebody were to sit down and like binge a bunch of the podcasts now, they would listen to like well over 100 hours
It's
Of
got to be
our-
closing to 200 hours.
of our voices.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, I used to just put it on, letting it play when I used to work at Penske, and in my parts office, I would just have it playing even if I wasn't in my office. So,
Wow. That's really
and yeah, there was a lot of content.
that was really cool. Has any how do you guys have any other stories of you guys getting recognized? Nina, how about you?
Maybe at Anime NYC. I don't remember.
Yeah, we had a couple people recognize us at Anime NYC.
I
We
think
went
that's
to
it.
this is kind of the opposite of that. We went to a wedding after the podcast had been going for a little while, shortly before COVID, and we ran into a couple of people there who were anime fans, were Gundam fans, and both of them said, "Oh yeah, I've heard of you, but I don't listen."
Jeez.
Oh my God. That's terrible.
Significant others of friends of Tom's from high school.
At least one of them did eventually start listening. So
Okay, good. But that's such a
Small
mean thing to
victories.
say. It's like Pirates of the Caribbean, where it's like, oh, but you have heard of me. Nice. So with all these adventures, of course, new ones are coming. New again. Shaun being cheeky over here with his puns. New
Yeah.
adventures.
yeah, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I get that reference. Mobile Suit Breakdown Season 4 and beyond. You guys say that this is coming out soon. You guys are in the midst of launching them for free, and then in 2 hours or now an hour and a half, the launch will go for the patrons, right?
Yep, exactly. And this is an exciting season for us. We've been on hiatus for a few months now, and hiatus is the term we use when we're working but not releasing things. This is weird because we've been basically making 7 episodes all at the same time, and we've never done anything like that before. So we're having to basically go through the same process we did at the very beginning of the podcast of figuring out how to even work on it.
And how it's all going to fit together. We had all these like different pieces, but weren't sure early on which research was going to go with which interviews, was how we wanted to try to organize it, how we wanted to go about covering the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So that took a lot of planning and hashing out.
And as Nina said earlier, work is a gas. So when you give yourself infinite time to work on something, you'll just keep working on it infinitely.
Yeah, we eventually had to give ourselves a deadline just to get the first episode done.
So what kind of format is season 4 going to take? You said it was 7 episodes, but how are you breaking them up?
So the first episode, the one that's coming out tonight, is going to be basically everything before the movie starts. And by that, what I mean is when Char's Counterattack was in theaters, it originally aired along with 2 short animated funny videos, the first 2 SD Gundam shorts. It would play as a theatrical trailer. So we're going to cover those the way we normally cover an episode of Gundam. But we're also going to do a rapid fire research piece about like what happened in the world between 1986 when Zeta Gundam was made, Double Zeta, sorry, and 1988 when the movie came out. So like what was happening? What were people reading in the newspaper, listening to on the news? Like what were people thinking about when they walked into the theater?
Okay.
And then
and how much of that's going to be like the tail end of Soviet Russia and like the fall of the Iron Curtain and that? Really?
Well, so which off the top of my head, Reagan gives his tear down this wall speech in this little gap of time, and the sort of glasnost and perestroika are just beginning. But the real disintegration and the wall coming down and all of that won't happen for a couple more years.
Okay.
And then next week, in the next episode 4.2, we're going to cover the movie basically the kind of like the way we would cover a regular episode. We've split it up into acts, and so we're going to do a recap of Act 1, then talk about it, do the analysis portion there. But then the remaining episodes are all going to be focused on specific topics or themes or aspects of the movie. So we have an environmentalism activist who's going to come in and talk about the ecology that shows up in the movie and the environmentalism and the question of like, what is Char's plan and how does it relate to environmentalism, both at the time and more generally. We have Iraj is coming back to do some physics stuff. We have Shaun masks, theatrical masks. Shaun and Sarah Mick costumes are going to come on to talk about costuming and mask. We have a new guest who hasn't been on the show before, but who is a professional video editor and who's going to come in and talk about the cinematography, the editing, the sort of technical aspects of the film. Anybody? Oh, of course, Dr. Shar is coming back.
Yeah, of course, Dr. Shar.
Yes!
There you go, Shaun.
Poor Dr. Shar.
You get to see her suffer once more.
I mean, I also watched her YouTube channel and watched her suffer with Dead Space. So.
This all sounds very exciting because you guys are taking a lot of content from just one movie. And it seems like you guys really took your time to organize the way that you guys wanted to present this content and investigation, which I think is something that I know that your supporters definitely, what would we call it, appreciate. But just listening to you guys go about the way of bringing topics such as ecology into the conversation when it's something that when you watch the movie or even just thinking about Gundam you don't think of, it really talks wonders about you guys and the way that you guys view Gundam as not only just our cartoon, but a place where you guys can learn from, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we couldn't make the podcast if we weren't both like intensely curious and prone to overthinking everything. And so we it's, you know, we'll see little things in an episode and go, hey, what do you think that's supposed to be? And that will spin off into a whole research piece.
I remember, you know, a couple examples of this. Like there's a scene in Zeta where Camille is cleaning his room and someone asks him like, why are you cleaning your room? We're about to go into battle. Don't you have more important things to do? And Camille says like, well, if I go out there and I die and I leave a messy room, he says the birds will laugh at me. And like, what does that mean? And for us, that question of like, what does that mean is something that we can't let go of. So we researched it, we dug into it, some more over the course of several weeks. We eventually heard from a listener's whose significant other is Japanese. It was like, oh, that reminds me of this idiom. And that was sort of the key that unlocked all of this. And we realized there's actually a very old Japanese saying about like, it's a poor bird that leaves its nest messy or something like that. And so that was really like what pulled it all together for us. And we're like, oh, Camille's making a reference indirectly to this idiom. He's not using the exact words, but he expects the listener, the viewer is expected to understand the reference.
Sorry, Shaun, go.
I was just gonna say. Meanwhile, we in the West are just like, what the hell?
What is this? You guys are so inspiring. I'm not even saying this. Just like, it's just that one line. You go into investigate. You understand it now. And now it makes sense. And it's not just another line. That's what it's literally reading between the lines. And I honestly, you guys are inspiring when it comes to all of this. So I can't wait to see what you guys have in the future. I do remember that in the little outline that Shaun sent you, he had a few questions for you guys regarding your new adventures. And I'm just going to take one from him real quick, and I'll let him ask the other ones. But are there any series you might be looking forward to or dreading in the future?
So I've only seen, what have I seen from the future? I saw the first part of Unicorn. And the first
OVA.
Right. And I saw the first season of IBO. And I'm looking forward to Iron-Blooded Orphans. I'm looking forward to us covering Iron-Blooded Orphans because I enjoyed that first season a lot. I'm dreading Unicorn only because everything I hear from the fandom is that people argue about Unicorn a lot. And I always feel like there's extra pressure on us covering it when it's a series that people have very strong feelings about.
Yeah.
You have absolutely gained all my trust and respect, Nina. You are now one of us. As everybody knows, I hate Unicorn. And Iron-Blooded Orphans is one of my favorites. I can't wait for you guys to get to that in the next 40 years. So I can't wait for that. Honestly, it's gonna be super cool. No, but seriously, that sounds I can't believe that that when you were talking about, you said Unicorn, I'm like, okay, where's this gonna go? You know, because I was a little scared there. How about you, Thom?
Gosh, so somebody asked me this recently, if there was any series I was really not looking forward to watching. And the answer is no. There are definitely some I don't like or didn't like the last time I watched them. But watching Gundam the way we do for the podcast is a completely different experience from watching it just to like watch an anime that I enjoy.
Yeah.
And some of the most interesting discussions we've had, some of the most interesting research pieces we've done have come out of episodes that I didn't particularly like. So, you know, I'm confident that going forward, sometimes the hot messes are the most interesting ones to talk about.
Yeah.
If it's just good, well, that'll be great. I don't know if there's anything that's just going to be like a slog. Maybe there will be. I'm sure there will be, but I can't imagine what it'll be.
Without any spoilers, I just do want to put it out there, and I'll let you ask all your things, Shaun. When you get to I keep saying Anne Hathaway. When you get to Hathaway's Flash, when you get to Hathaway's Flash, Thom and Nina, hit me up. I want to hear what you guys have to say about that.
You said?
What? What's up?
I said in 2043. I think.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I'll be waiting. So I'll tell Google right now to remind me in 2040. But Shaun, go ahead, man.
Well, I mean, the only other real thing is is there anything that you look forward to outside of the shows that MSB might bring towards you guys, like future adventures or, you know, long hopeful dreams of crazy things that it might take you to, kind of thing?
Well, we daydream about doing a research trip to Japan. We've definitely bought some like import books and art and stuff, but it'd be nice to not have to pay the arm and a leg to get imports and pick things out for ourselves and uh, you know, see what kind of resources are available from there. Uh, and then our other big dream is eventually being able to hire more people.
Yeah, like
Amen.
we sort of, once the Patreon started doing pretty well, one of the first things we decided we needed to do was to start sort of reinvesting that money into the community at large. So we started the commissions project where we commission artists to make cool Gundam fan art. And so we dedicate a portion of the Patreon takings to that every month. And it would be cool if we could make that a bigger project to not just commission art, but translations, to like hire people to do research, to pay fans to do the research that they're already doing for free. To make MSB a larger production, I think that'd be really cool.
Well, and to be able to compensate people for their time and energy.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm sure that you guys will get there. I know that you guys are on the right way, and you guys have a committed community that really loves your work. And honestly, even just listening here to you guys talk, like I said, and I'll be honest, I haven't sat down to listen to your episodes, but the amount of respect that I've gained for you guys just in this past few hours. 2 hours. Originally, I love how we were like, yeah, this is gonna be an hour and a half show, but now we've kept you for longer. But no, that's super cool.
For a living, what did you expect?
Yeah.
This is true.
Shaun, you want to ask them the questions from the GTS fan?
Let's move on to the fun kind of goofy stuff to finish off this night. So there, I only got 2 questions from the GTS fan, but I think there's some pretty cool ones. The first one is from Old School Skill. He wanted to know, what character decisions would you change, and what would be the implications of these new decisions? So it's completely theoretical what if scenario.
All right. Well, keeping in mind that we're only talking about what we've covered so far.
Yep.
First Gundam, Zeta, and Double Zeta. My number one change is there are a couple of characters in Zeta that I would condense. I would make Rosamia and 4 the same person, and she would survive the Kilimanjaro episodes. And then I would take like Jared, Buran Blutarch, Ben Wooder, just a whole bunch of Titans, like blonde Titans guys, and squish them together into one. I would maintain the Jared Yazan distinction. I think those are different enough characters, but Jared does the thing Char does in First Gundam, where he just disappears for like half the narrative. But Jared does not have Char charisma. Jared cannot pull that off. So Jared needs to be there for more of the story for that to for him to work as a character.
Yeah, Jared's kind of your generic dude bro soldier all through that until near the tail end.
And I have this sort of theoretical framework for Zeta that it's like all of the antagonists that Camille runs up against are different versions of what it might mean to be a man, like different ideas of masculinity. Sirocco offers one option, Jared offers another option. Even Quattro and Amuro and Bright all are presenting different ideas of masculinity to Camille, and I think developing Jared's more would help the show and the character a lot.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
I'm sure I have lots more than this, but the ones that popped in my head immediately are having some kind of setup for Mirai falling in love with Slegger, so that it's not entirely out of left field.
What you ask for. We're going to get a movie about the two of them falling in love, and it's going to be interminable.
But there aren't a lot of scenes that I yell at in the show. There aren't a lot of times when I go, "What the bleep, 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 bleep is happening? And Mirai and Slegger was one. And then, remind me the names of the orphans that Char adopts.
Shinta and Kum.
Shinta and Kum.
Yeah.
They don't need to be there. What is the point of them? They don't do anything. They I think it's sort of funny to think about the fact that Char is trying to recreate the white base, and he's like, well, the white base had orphans, so I better adopt some orphans, I guess. But Zeta suffers from having too many characters, and I feel like they are some characters you could cut.
Yeah, it felt like they only served a purpose once Double Zeta started. That was to create a contrast to the kids off of Shangri-La.
Well, and I think it's important to establish that Char's whole thing is abandoning children who rely on him. But
Yep.
it's
Yeah, not wrong. So we've got one other question, and I know Noble Mecha is probably still in the chat because he's Kid Chaos 21. He asked, do you think they should have adapted the manga version of Char's counterattack into a movie for more modern fans, and so we can finally see the spoilers animated?
I mean, sure. If you're adapting manga, that's a fine one to do. But like in a world where we have a very limited number of Gundam projects coming out, I really want to see more new takes on it. I really want to see more alternate universes, do more weird things, go further into the future of the Universal Century. Like the mangas are great, but they're always going to be there, you know? And so like I would love to see what's beyond victory, what's out there in the far future.
I have to agree. I want to see some more bridging of gaps because there's still plenty of gaps in the UC, especially.
And I mean, if we're gonna do stuff set during the sort of core first arc, then like fill out the time around Zeta and Double Zeta. Like give us some of those side stories. There's so much for First Gundam.
Yeah.
Like let us see the Grips conflict from other angles. I think that'd be great.
I can get behind that. And Derek is just saying in the comments, mangas are scary, so many.
But if you limit yourself to ones that have been officially released in English, it's actually a very small number.
There you go, Derek. Easiest way to go. I do have a question to add on there, but I don't know if Nina wants to answer the Noble Mecha one.
I mean, I don't know much about those manga series, and so I can't really speak to it beyond like I suppose a comparison is when I found out about the origin and that it's largely a retelling of events around the first series, and that usually my preference is for like new stories. I want to see new takes on something rather than like endless rehashes and remakes of something that's already been done.
Okay, yeah, and that's completely understandable. I agree also with that. I'd like to see new things. I don't want to. Well, I guess I can't say much on that because I don't want to spoil anything for you guys. But I do have another question. Where from Dronzy, who says, what are some life lessons from Gundam that resonate with you and influence how you see things these days from your research?
Oh gosh, I'd say the number one life lesson from Gundam is to quote something that the writer Dan Sheehan said on Twitter: place your heroes' tender necks on the altar of a better tomorrow. Your heroes and your leaders will always let you down. They're not people to idolize. They're just people. And
right. Just don't have heroes.
You have to build the better world yourself.
Yeah. It's a good one.
And I guess for me, Tomino is quoted as saying that adults are the enemy. And so constantly fighting against that complacency that can come with adulthood and that sort of comfort with the status quo and trying to always push myself not to get too comfortable, not to be complacent,
Mhm.
and not to dismiss the concerns and considerations of young people just because they're young.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a big one.
It's a good one. We should take that to Congress real quick. Give me a sec.
Nate, there should be a law. Every new sitting member of the U.S. Congress should watch Gundam.
I can get behind that.
That's how you get funding to build an actual Gundam. This is an awesome idea. Oh my god.
Wait, no, I just figured out how it'll backfire.
Yeah, I know. No. We have some good ones from here. Joey Gunada says, everyone in Gundam is in some way the bad guy. Jabdan says, in war, have your friends back at all costs or no one will have yours. So yeah, there's some good ones. Gundam definitely has a lot to offer when it comes to lessons and introspect on actual day-to-day conflicts and even looking at the past, right? Which, like you guys talked about, the parallels with World War II. But now we're going to move on to wrong Gundam opinions. So Shaun?
Yeah.
You want to...
Yeah, well, anyone who's a fan of MSB knows that every episode ends with a wrong Gundam opinion. And you're supposed to... Well, before the pandemic, you were supposed to go to New York, yell it on a street corner, and Thom and Nina would hear you. Now you just yell it out your window and no one hears you. So I figured I would share some wrong Gundam opinions that Thom and Nina can totally hear. And 2 of them are mine because nobody else got back to me. But... wait
a second. People did get back to you, but they were on series that they haven't watched yet.
Yeah, and they were also mostly just saying the show is shit or the show is good. So I was just like, those aren't fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, a good wrong Gundam opinion is so hard to come up with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, we might as well start with Freddy was wrong because Freddy's always around creeping somewhere. And he said Fetties did nothing wrong.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, I can point you to a lot of things that the Fetties did wrong. You don't have to watch very much to see it.
Yeah. And then move on to one of mine. Animorphs is a better commentary on child soldiers than Gundam.
How dare you?
That's not fair. Animorphs is really good.
Yeah, I was gonna say I might agree with that one. So
After I came up with it, I'm like, actually, that might actually be a right Gundam opinion.
Yeah,
sneak through from time to time.
Absolutely correct Gundam opinion.
After that, we've got the Titans only wanted what was best for the Earth. We promise, totally from Abyssal Streaming.
They got me with the totally. They must be right.
Yeah.
When you define the best interests of the Earth as your own personal best interests, then sure, yeah, everything that they...
I mean, isn't that how the Earth works now?
Shaun, don't bring him onto us, dude. I don't want a problem.
I mean, Jeff Bezos is riding his space dick anyways. It's fine. He won't find me.
While you're streaming on we're streaming on his website,
his platform.
Yeah, his platform.
No, it's fine. We're fine. It's fine. This might also count as a right Gundam opinion, but ignition keys in Gundams would stop kids from stealing them from the nameless one, also known as Kathy.
I mean, do you really think that... Take the opening episode of Zeta Gundam, for instance, or the second episode where Camille steals the Mark II. Do you really think that Jared is the kind of guy to take the keys out of the ignition?
No, it was in the sun visor.
Those Gundams crave theft. They want to be stolen.
I just wish they had heckin' seatbelts. Why do so few of them have seatbelts?
Yeah, well, and I mean, look at Judeau. He's technically a junker, so he would just hotwire the damn thing and walk away with it anyways. I think he did hotwire the thing and walked away.
And wait a second, to Amuro's credit, no, sorry, it's Thom? Oh, what was I think I heard somebody saying something. I didn't want to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, to Amuro's credit, didn't he know how to pilot the RX-78 because he read the research papers and things of his dad that he had back home?
He found the manual lying on the ground after the actual pilot got blown up, and he was reading the manual as he was sitting.
Right. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. And then the last wrong Gundam opinion is Neo Zeon is just Team Rocket for 80s kids.
You know, when you think about the outfits and the hair colors.
Yeah. Well, I think I remembered.
Gara are Jesse and James, and then Gotten is Meowth. I buy it. I would watch that show.
I could see Haman as Giovanni.
Oh. You really got me with Gotten as Meowth.
With all
That's right.
With all his scheming,
his over elaborate, incredibly stupid schemes. Yes.
Now the real question is Bicha or Mondo Wobbuffet?
I was Jabman. Nina says suits don't have seatbelts because if you crash, it wouldn't matter if you had them or not. So.
Well, that got dark.
But I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But they crash all the time.
Yeah, I mean it's the only thing that refutes that is in the scenes where somebody does have one, or then like, not to bring spoilers into it, but in CCA they finally get like airbags. So
I was about to say the airbags. Yeah,
those reusable airbags are so cool.
Yeah. They completely clear airbags, so it's not obstructing your view.
Mm-hmm. But I know why you want seatbelts, but every time somebody cracks their head on the control panel, like that gets a pop for me. I love that scene.
Dr. Shaun would be mad at you because that's all brain trauma.
Yeah.
Are we sure that's not how you make new types? Just head trauma?
I mean, maybe.
We don't know what they do at the new type lab, so maybe they just hit people over the head until they become new type.
There you go.
That would explain a few things. Yeah.
Just wear a helmet.
Yeah, the
That's really about it. I think they wear helmets, don't they?
They do.
They do.
I mean,
CCA.
That's why the head cracking into the control panel is so cool, because it like breaks the faceplate a little bit.
Yeah.
Visually, it really works. It really elevates any scene that it happens in.
Honestly, I'm there with Tom, dude. If it's for my entertainment, then I'm fine with it. It's good. It's good laughs.
They're not, Nina. They're not real brains.
I'm not saying my reaction is illogical. That's just how I feel.
No, Nina. There's no room for logic here.
Actually isn't.
I was actually talking about this with some people on Twitter, because in First Gundam they do have seatbelts, and then in Zeta and Double Zeta the seatbelts disappear, but nothing replaces them. And someone I was talking with was like, well, see, the design of the linear chair cockpit is such that it minimizes the impacts, and so they don't need seatbelts because the chairs are so advanced that they like absorb all the impact. I'm like, have you watched Zeta?
Space magic.
Space magic can cover up any number of sins.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, there's your wrong Gundam opinion. Some of them were right though, according to Thom.
Yep.
We are the arbiters of rightness of Gundam opinion. We are the final.
That's why they blocked you apparently on Twitter. He's way too right. Guys, it's been fun chatting with you guys. Where can people go to listen to your podcast?
You can go to GundamPodcast.com.
And we are also on all the usual podcast services: Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify.
That new Amazon one. Yep.
There's a new Amazon one?
Yeah, Amazon got into podcasts recently.
Of course they did.
Oh my God. See, you made Jeff Bezos angry, Shaun. This is what he does. No, but seriously, thanks for being on. I know that Shaun is more than happy to have you guys here.
Yeah, it's been great.
Thanks for having us. It's been really fun.
And I can't wait to start listening to your podcast and trying to figure out where the train is at in every episode. I'll let you know about that. And good luck on your season 4 numbers, even though they don't matter. And you guys are awesome. Seriously.
Thanks so much. It was really great being on.
Yeah, you're fabulous hosts, and yeah, hoping your Gundam talk show also keeps growing and attracting new viewers.
Yeah, and I'm
Here's
so
hoping.
glad you do this live, and that you do it with so many different people. That like hosting with people you don't know skill is totally alien to me, and I'm totally blessed.
Whenever you want a lesson on just saying random things, let me know. I'm up for a message whenever. And yes, Joey Ganada, this is going up on YouTube, and on Monday I will post this up on Monday because according to the Twitch affiliate, we can't do anything for 24 hours with this. But you guys can go watch it over on our YouTube channel. Shaun, any words from you that you want to say real quick?
I just want to say thank you so much. It's been a great time, and I can't believe it's been 2.5 hours almost.
We lied to you. We said an hour and a half. Here you are.
Much fun.
It's been so fun. Like I've been laughing so much the whole time.
The thing is, look, before we stop the show, the thing is, before when Shaun got home from work, he sat down. I go over there by the stairs. I'm like, so today's show's gonna be what, an hour and 20 minutes? He's like, yeah, probably around there. Look at us now. I think this has been the longest show this season, and I'm not even mad. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, go check them out. Remember that today's show was sponsored by USA Gundam Store, and use Talk 10 to save 10% off on your next purchase. With that said, Thom and Nina, thank you so much for being on. Shaun, thank you for being here. And we'll talk to you guys on the next one. And take care.